Hello, everybody. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today in cloudy Chattanooga, Tennessee. There's a lot to talk about. I know that it's just the beginning of the NBA season, but first off, baseball is gone. We're going to have to wait another 113 days before we get to talk about pitchers and catchers reporting to training camp. So we can finally put the nail in that particular coffin. No? I mean, I no longer feel obligated to talk about baseball, but we had a fantastic World Series, all 5 games of it. And I think that the plot twists in those games, especially the way that the Royals are never out of a game. They're never out of a game. That was exciting. That was pretty fun. But I do want to talk about Joe Buck a little bit, because Joe Buck did the play-by-play for the World Series, and he does play-by-play for the NFL on Fox when he's not doing the postseason of baseball, and he does it with Troy Aikman. And people don't like Joe Buck. He's pretty divisive. I'll say that. I won't say that people don't like Joe Buck. I'll say that he's pretty divisive. I will say that if you like Joe Buck, you're a pretty big fan of Joe Buck. And if you don't like Joe Buck, you really don't like Joe Buck. And I've heard every reason for people not liking Joe Buck, ranging from he's boring and he has no emotion to he's biased to he just sounds arrogant. And I don't know where any of this is coming from. Okay, first let's just address these things one by one with Joe Buck, because I think that sports commentators and sports announcers are in this weird position where they're supposed to be telling you the story, but not become the story, and at the same time give you some kind of personality, give you some kind of their own flavor, their own appeal to the story so that you can enjoy it more. I mean, they're supposed to be on one side of the line, and on the other side of the line all at the same time. They're supposed to be impartial and unbiased, but also have some flavor and personality, but also not be the story at all. And what ends up happening, of course, is that nobody can do that perfectly. That doesn't make any sense, really. Nobody can be that completely perfectly, right? Like, it doesn't work. But we expect it, and if you end up on either side of the line, people are going to hate you. This is an industry, sports broadcasting, that if you have thin skin, if you worry about what people think about you, don't do it. You're not going to please 100% of the people. Even the most vanilla person is going to upset somebody because he's boring or something like that. And I would say that not that Joe Buck is vanilla, but Joe Buck goes out of his way to literally not step on toes, and that steps on toes. Joe Buck goes out of his way to not say anything controversial whatsoever. Joe Buck just keeps his voice even keel. To me, Joe Buck is a good broadcaster. Maybe that's just me. I'm the only person on Joe Buck Island. I have no idea. I think that he's an incredible broadcaster. I think he's a very, very good play-by-play guy in both NFL and baseball. I like him better for baseball. I think that the way that his demeanor is more suited for baseball. I think that he's very mellow. He's just so mellow that works for baseball. I don't want someone yelling at me during a baseball game. I will take Gus Johnson for college hoops and football. I'll take that. I won't take it for baseball. It just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. But I think that Joe Buck does a very good job. And I think that people just don't like him for all the reasons that they don't like him, because he's asked to do a very hard thing. I can't think of very many broadcasters that are universally liked, that are completely universally liked. I mean, gosh, Vin Scully, he's one. Vin Scully is a guy that's universally liked, but also Vin Scully's been doing it forever. All the people who were probably initially against Vin Scully just gave up. I don't know, but he's excellent. He is excellent. Okay, I'm not saying that people just like Vin Scully because they just like Vin Scully, but he's not a national guy, so I think that also plays some part in it. I think a lot of times you can hate on a national broadcaster because you've been listening to your local guys do the Mets or the Royals all season long, and then also all of a sudden they get to the World Series and you've got to listen to Joe Buck. And I've known people who will watch the game but turn on the radio and listen to the local guys because the local guys have been there. They know more. They do. They know more because they don't do anything but eat, breathe, and sleep whatever team it is that they've been following for the entire season plus the postseason. Like, they know more than anybody else what is up with the team. So I understand that resentment, but like, you're not in Kansas City and you're not in New York. I don't want to hear from you. You don't care about the local flavor of it. You just want someone to complain against. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm talking about broadcasters being disliked. I'm pretty sure that people don't dislike me, but there's not enough people there to dislike me. If you dislike me, do let me know, though. I'm curious. Maybe I'm a masochist. I'm curious. Tweet at me at SportsCloud or at Hot News Talk Radio, at Hot News Radio. Search Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and you can find us, communicate with us. We'd love to hear from you. But I don't know what it is about certain broadcasters. They just are lightning rods for criticism. And I mean, I get it because I have broadcasters I dislike too. Like, I just don't like them. And there's nothing that you can do to change my mind. So if you don't like Joe Buck, this is not to change your mind. I'm more curious and I'm more into delving into why that is. Because Joe Buck to me seems like a perfectly normal guy. Just he happens to be calling the baseball game right now. That's all. I mean, I've heard that he comes off as arrogant. I don't see it. I don't see Joe Buck as coming off as knowing more than I do or being more knowledgeable than me in a smarmy way. I don't see that in him. I really do search for it. I've tried to see the Joe Buck hate because I'm online, and I think that the internet, of course, is the great magnifying glass of humanity. If there's an opinion that is held, it is about 10 times larger on the internet. May not necessarily be what that belief is. Like, it may not necessarily be what everybody believes, but a high concentration of people willing to complain are on the internet. Terrible people have always existed. The internet just gives them another place to be terrible. The internet itself does not cause this or create this. But I was looking at some baseball threads, on Reddit and on a few other sites around the net, just some forums, deadspin.com. People don't like Joe Buck. To me, he doesn't sound boring. And besides, he's the play-by-play guy. The color analyst is the one who's supposed to be interesting anyhow, especially on TV. That's where you live there. I mean, the color guy is the guy that's supposed to be the interesting one. But Joe Buck doesn't sound boring to me. He just doesn't. People have put together compilations, okay, of just YouTube videos because they don't have anything better to do, apparently. And they're just videos of Joe Buck calling games where, Adrian Peterson breaks off a 50-yard touchdown run and Joe Buck does not raise his voice at all. And I don't know, they want Joe Buck to be yelling at them while Adrian Peterson scores a touchdown. To me, that doesn't make the touchdown any more or less amazing. I'm not listening to the play-by-play guy to get me just hyped for the game. I'm not listening to the play-by-play guy to get me fired up. First off, that's what the color commentator's for, Secondly, the play itself, the football itself is exciting enough. It ought to be exciting enough. You are dedicating basically an entire Sunday to the thing. Okay, it starts at 1. It's done by like 11. The football itself has to be exciting enough. You don't need Joe Buck to be your hype man. Okay, he's not Flavor Flav in your ear going, yeah, boy, while you're watching Adrian Peterson run. I think it doesn't make any sense. It's not necessary. It isn't necessary. Okay, like I watch Monday Night Football. I don't want Mike Tirico to be the exciting one. I want John Gruden to be the exciting one because that's his job. I think where you have some trouble with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman is that Aikman also doesn't sound super thrilled. But to me, again, the football itself sells it to me. So I don't need any help. I don't need any accoutrements, any additions to the football or the baseball or whatever the case may be. It's nice when there's an exciting play-by-play guy because sometimes the entertainment comes from the play-by-play guy, especially if, the game is a blowout or it's lopsided. And college basketball, truly, the college basketball is exciting in and of itself, but it isn't the same without Gus Johnson. He starts screaming at you. And look, I don't need Gus Johnson to enjoy college basketball. I just enjoy Gus Johnson. Like that is its own separate enjoyment. I think those two things are very much exclusive of one another. Do I enjoy the announcer and do I enjoy the game? Those things are separate things. And I think we conflate those things and go, you know what? I'm not enjoying watching this game right now because the announcer is the one who's boring me. Even though if you're watching Dolphins Bills, there's not a whole lot that can be done to make that game more exciting than the fact that the Dolphins are bad and the Bills are also bad. I mean, like, sure, having a good announcer makes that more palatable to watch, but only because the announcer himself is exciting, and he would have been exciting if the game were good, bad, or neutral. And if that's what you want, then that's fine, but that's not what I want. I just want a good game. Build whatever else you want around the game. The game is what's important. Okay, like I have people I don't like. Especially not play-by-play people so much, because I think that job is incredibly difficult to do. People just, I've been told by a few friends of mine, like, why is that so hard to do? It's just talking. It's like, okay, well, you sit down and try and match pace for pace, play for play, what's going on in a game with nothing but your words, and you figure out how hard that is. That's a tough gig. All right. I got nothing but respect for play-by-play people. I have done play-by-play. It's hard. I've done play-by-play for baseball. It's real hard. It's really hard. Okay? Because it's not like a barbershop conversation with your friends where, you just go, oh, I don't know what that stat is. You've got to have it on hand and ready to go. And you've got to, if you don't have it in your mind, you've got to be able to look it up while you're talking. It's tough. Play-by-play is a tough racket. Give some of these guys a break. But I think that there's commentators also who analyze and, do what I do, I think a whole lot better than I do, and I still don't like them. Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless are two guys I think that I think that they come off as blowhards. I think that they just talk and talk and talk and, I've got this opinion. It's not substantiated by anything. I'm just giving you an outlandish opinion to give you an outlandish opinion. I don't like that. I think that you can have an opinion, but back it up with some facts that are relevant, not just random arbitrary facts that you just threw out there. Okay, I don't like that stuff. But when it comes to announcers who make the game interesting and exciting to talk about, Pardon the Interruption is a really cool version of that. That whole, we're going to sit down at a table and argue about sports like you do with your friends, except the discussion is meaningful. You're not just making up wild opinions, or at least it doesn't feel that way. And if you do have a wild opinion, then it's like, okay, I understand that your opinion is wild, but you've properly convinced me that there's a reason that you just hold this opinion. You know? And I get that. That I understand. But just the random tossing of grenades back and forth, can't do it. Won't do it. Not going to be able to do it. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, and we're talking about sports announcers, broadcasters, more Alabama LSU hype here on AM 1240.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
President Obama makes Jimmy Carter look like Napoleon Bonaparte. We have a president that leads from behind, and when America doesn't lead, bad things happen.
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services. The sky is our limit.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. Mark your calendars right now, because my guest this week is none other than one of the leading GOP presidential contenders, neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson. Don't miss a revealing conversation with candidate Ben Carson this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Expect lots of clouds, but mainly dry weather out there through the afternoon. Mild highs into the lower 70s. Tonight, clouds, some late fog, lows near 60. For Wednesday and Thursday, more of the same. Could see a spotty shower Thursday. Highs back into the 70s. Showers and thunder showers likely later Friday. Walgreens knows that the best time for a cold is never, so they make it easy to find relief like Dayquil and NyQuil Severe Cold and Flu Relief. That's Walgreens at the corner of happy and healthy. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
So last night, Tim Duncan and the San Antonio Spurs beat the New York Knicks, which makes Tim Duncan the winningest player connected to a single organization in the history of the NBA. He passes Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz, brings Tim Duncan to 954 wins as a San Antonio Spur. Spent his entire career in San Antonio. Tim Duncan also got to that game, got to that win total a lot quicker than Malone did, a lot quicker than John Stockton did. So hats off to Tim Duncan. Here's the thing also about Tim, that he's not just been there forever dominating, but that he's still dominating. Like his numbers have not fallen off from where they have been as a rookie. I mean, Tim Duncan has been averaging about 20 and 10 his whole career. His entire career, about 20 points, 10 rebounds, which is incredible. Tim Duncan was drafted in 1998. Okay, it's 2015. He's still going. Tim Duncan's a machine, basically. And I think the Spurs have helped a lot, obviously, by lowering his minutes later on. So he's just had to be more efficient as time's gone on to continue to average the same amount of points. He plays less minutes than he ever has, but his production has not fallen off at all, which is incredible. And he's seen some changes of the team. Back when the Spurs played in the more 90s, early 2000s style offense, where basically the game plan was, toss the ball into Tim, everybody just get the heck out the way. And the team has evolved and moved, and as the league has changed into a more spacing-oriented league, and you move the ball around and you make extra passes and you shoot a lot more threes, Tim has adapted to that. The offense runs through him, but you don't just have to give the ball to Tim and everybody get out of the way. And he's adapted and he fits into whatever system, and you have to put him up there with one of the all-time greats, if not the, especially at that position, power forward. He's the greatest power forward ever. Right? Like that's not a discussion that we can have. I think that he's a top 4 player ever. I don't know that you can really not put him up there. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that are great, obviously, but like, you look at a Shaquille O'Neal and you look at a Tim Duncan. Do you want Tim or do you want Shaq? I mean, give me Tim. Give me Tim. Because Tim Duncan is still playing. You understand? Tim Duncan is still playing basketball at such a high level. And Shaq broke down so much at the end of his career. Like, he's not known as the dominant force that he was at his prime because of how far from his prime he looked when he was almost done. Like Shaq in Cleveland, Shaq in Phoenix, Shaq in Boston. Those are terrible Shaquille O'Neals. Those are terrible versions of Shaquille O'Neal. Like, they're probably the worst iterations of Shaquille O'Neal ever. And there is no version of that of Tim Duncan. And Tim Duncan's done it all with the San Antonio Spurs. They drafted him. He stayed there. He's going to retire a Spur. And then whenever that time that is necessary for him to wait before he walks into the Hall of Fame, he's basically going to walk out of San Antonio and into the Hall of Fame where he deserves to be. The issue here is that Tim's been with the Spurs the whole way. And I was thinking about how many great players get that opportunity to be with one team their whole career. And I was thinking about specifically, the Titans and the Falcons, like local teams, or people that are from here that have gone on to do that kind of thing. Like Peyton Manning, that should have been him in Indianapolis, but the Colts jumped the gun before anything really was wrong with Peyton. They didn't believe in Peyton and his health history and his neck surgeries and the nerve damage. So they released him before it was time, really, because Peyton is still playing football at a decently high level. Okay, like, we talk about how old Peyton Manning looks and how hard it is for him to throw the ball. I mean, Peyton Manning is winding up from his hip to get the ball downfield. And you saw on Sunday Night Football, he was throwing with incredible accuracy. Like, he was throwing darts all over the yard. Peyton was slicing him up. I mean, he's backed up by a great defense, sure, but trust me, there are like most of the league, I would say, there are many teams in the NFL who would take old Peyton over the guy they have now. Okay, there are teams that are, we drafted a young quarterback. We're going to try and stick it out with the young quarterback. And there are teams that think that they're set. But the entire AFC South would take Peyton. That includes the Colts. You know what I mean? The entire NFC East, outside of the Giants, would take Peyton right now. He's that good. And he should have finished his entire career in Indianapolis, but it didn't work out that way, and that's part of it. Part of it is a little bit of luck. In the case of Indianapolis, literally, Andrew Luck. They released Peyton. They sucked for a year, and then they got Andrew Luck as a result. And that's helped them to move on and to forget Peyton a little bit quicker. But Tim Duncan was able to finish his entire career in San Antonio. And I was trying to think, and, I was like, man, I've only ever known Eddie George as a Tennessee Titan. So I'm looking through all of the stats because I'm thinking, like, I think Eddie George played his entire career in Tennessee. Like, no, he didn't, actually. He finished his last year out in Dallas, and it wasn't good. So we forgot about it. And then that got me to thinking, how many athletes do we think finish their entire career on one team, but actually wound up somewhere else? And we just forget about it because they weren't good. They weren't good, or something happened that we were just like, look, we don't want this to be part of your legacy, so we just forget about it. And like I mentioned Shaq earlier, all the iterations of Shaq, I think Shaq was so blatantly ring hopping at the end of his career that I think it's hard to put him on that list with those guys. Like, we know that Shaq did a lot of leaping when he was in Los Angeles, and then he jumped from LA and went to Miami to play with the Heat, and him and Dwayne Wade won a title. Like, that is a pretty enduring part of Shaq's legacy also. But for instance, Patrick Ewing, the New York Knicks. Patrick Ewing is the Knicks. They haven't had another star since Ewing that's reached those heights and had the burden that New York fans put on everyone. Like Carmelo, I don't think that after last season anyone expects Carmelo to just carry the Knicks. I don't think people expect Carmelo to be the Knicks, and there are trade rumors around Carmelo. He might not even be a Knick. So there's all of those things. Patrick Ewing was like the true Knick of the last 20 years. Finished his career in Orlando. And we don't remember it at all because it was terrible. It was absolutely dreadful. Right? Like, you talk about Joe Montana. He's a 49er. Joe Montana is the 49ers, and quite frankly, he's the standard bearer for NFL quarterbacks, that you want to be in that conversation with a Joe Montana. We put Manning and Brady in that conversation. Joe Montana is a great 49er. He's also a Kansas City Chief. Guys that you are thinking are iconic and just wound up in a different place, wound up finishing their career in a different city, and we never talk about it because it was so bad. We never talk about it. Most of us don't even remember it because of just how dreadful it was. Or how about this? Guys that spent their entire career in one city, and it was almost something else. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant has been a Los Angeles Laker his entire career, except for that season where he almost went to the Clippers. Except for that season where he almost walked away because he was frustrated with the Lakers organization and a whole lot of other drama. Andrew Bynum, he didn't want him. All of those things worked out there. Kobe Bryant was almost a Clipper. Like it's a great honor to be able to finish your career with one team. Kobe Bryant was almost a Clipper, and that's weird when you just think about everything that the Clippers are and have been, which is dysfunctional, and their owner was racist. Like, I don't know how that would necessarily have worked out, but it almost happened. That's one of those what ifs in sports history that I really wish would have happened so that I could find out where that rabbit trail went. Instead, Kobe stays in LA. Phil Jackson returns, 2 more championships for him. And that solidifies that legacy. And so we forget Kobe Bryant was almost a Clipper, which would have just been weird. Like when they Photoshop people in the wrong jersey, that's that level of strange. That would have had to have been Photoshopped, because I would never have believed it without having seen it. You know what I mean? This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. We're talking about athletes who have spent their entire career with one team and then at the very, very, very end jump ship to another team, and we never talk about it and we forget about it because it was terrible. It was just bad. It's an honor that very few athletes have. The Derek Jeters and Cal Ripkens of the world get to finish their career with one team. Sandy Koufax with the Dodgers. Not everybody gets to do that. Not everybody gets to do that thing. And it doesn't matter to your overall greatness and to your overall legacy, really. It's just a cool little badge to have on you. It's just a cool badge to have placed on you that you're Hakeem Olajuwon and you're a Rocket and you finished with the Rockets. You know what I mean? Or you think of a guy like Roger Clemens, who the legitimate part of his legacy was New York. The part of his legacy where he looked like a linebacker and not at all like a baseball pitcher, that part of his legacy was tail end of New York, Houston. Like Roger Clemens was doing the roids, and I think that when you have that interplay with your legacy, the part of you that we want to remember, that's the part of you that we attribute to the franchise that you were at when you were a good person. This is where you were, and we like that side of you. People, probably the exception to that is Barry Bonds, who we remember San Francisco Barry Bonds because he was nuts, because the numbers he was putting up weren't real. But also that was definitely more steroidy Barry Bonds as opposed to Pittsburgh Barry Bonds, who was skinny, he looked light, he looked nimble, and then San Francisco Barry Bonds is the one where the numbers are huge, but also where the steroid use was happening. I mean, allegedly happening, but he looked enormous. He looked enormous. And sure, he could have just gone to the gym and worked out for all that, but I have my doubts. I'll just say that. It's AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you search Hot News Talk Radio, we are the first thing that comes up. You can find us on YouTube. If you click us on YouTube, you can listen to some of our classic episodes, and you get to see what we look like. How often is it that Russell wears a tie? He may or may not be wearing one today. You need to click in to find out. Also, among other things, you can find us on the TuneIn Radio app. It's absolutely free. You can find it in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a follow, and press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. And if you're at your computer in your office, you don't have to take up much space. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com. We are streaming live. Just open us up in a little tab and then open another tab and go somewhere else. You listen to us while you read. Listen to us while you work. Get informed. Get educated. And who knows? Maybe you can spend the rest of your career with whatever team it is that you're working at, if that's what you want to do. Because, of course, I mean, in our lives, that's a pretty cool thing, too. If you spend 20, 25 years with a single company, I mean, that's a real good company, and you might be a real good worker. It's just a little badge of honor. That's all it is. This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Up next, Alabama LSU hybrid.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor Patrick Neal in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Social media, we're on that. Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, at Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter. Download the TuneIn app and follow us anywhere at any time. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Dominique Wilkins is another guy that he was so great with the Atlanta Hawks that I only ever think of Dominique Wilkins as a Hawk. He didn't start his career in Atlanta.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Didn't start his career in Atlanta. He actually began his career in Utah. He was drafted by the Jazz. And he's worn a number of different uniforms, spent some time in Minnesota. So Dominique Wilkins is another guy, the human highlight reel, who's basically Atlanta basketball. Like, that is his essence, is that we haven't had a star of his caliber in that town since him, ever. I mean, we've had some great games from Joe Johnson. Josh Smith did some really cool things in Atlanta. Jace Move. But ultimately, those guys couldn't get it done in the postseason. And ultimately, those guys weren't as electrifying to watch as Wilkins was. I mean, Dominique Wilkins would do some things, and you just have to YouTube it. It's not like I grew up watching him, but you just have to YouTube it. Like, Dominique Wilkins did some things athletically that'll make your jaw hit the floor. It didn't make any sense. And he is, in essence, Atlanta basketball. Didn't play his entire career in Atlanta, which is crazy to me. Just, again, you just look it up and you're like, wow, really? You know, and if you have any more of those, Facebook, Twitter, send them to us. LSU plays Alabama this Saturday, and every Friday I do the games you need to be watching this weekend. You better believe that's one of them. That is one of those games. You have to be watching that game. And I know you don't need me to tell you, but I've just got to get it out there. Okay. I've just got to get it off my chest. This game is going to be exciting. There's going to be running action. I like that LSU's passing game is starting to come alive here in the last couple of games. This is going to be a fun matchup. Les Miles versus Nick Saban. I really like when coaches are opposites of each other and they're rivals. That's the best thing, because they're the ones that have to talk to the media the most. And I like the whole, two sides of the same coin storyline. That's why Auburn and Arkansas is so interesting, because Gus Malzahn is quiet. He's not going to tell you too much. He'll keep information to himself. And Brett Bielema is the opposite of that, and will probably not keep information to himself. And my favorite favorite Brett Bielema quote ever. Arkansas beat Texas in their bowl game last year, and Brett Bielema said that the win over Texas was borderline orgasmic. So if the ultimate TMI coach is Brett Bielema, but I like Les Miles because he's a little kooky, you know, he's a little strange. He just the way that he says some things, you're just like, what? The decisions that he makes on the football field. I mean, the man's nickname is the Mad Hatter. Les Miles will just do crazy stuff. And Nick Saban is more formal and more traditional. Nick Saban is like your dad. Nick Saban could be the serious dad in a TV sitcom because he would be the center of this whole family where the daughter is crazy and the son is weird and his wife, you can't trust her, and then Nick Saban. Like, he fits in. Nick Saban looks like a TV sitcom dad to me. And he acts like one. He's just very stern and firm, and you know, it's the sitcom is about the kids, you know, and the kids are trying not to get into trouble and everything. And what adds the drama and the suspense to the show is that their dad is Nick Saban. And any hijinks and shenanigans that ensue circle around not pissing off Nick Saban. Okay. And that makes him very opposite of Les Miles. He even his team takes on his personality, as with a lot of great coaches. The team takes on the personality of the coach, and Alabama plays very traditionally. Okay, they throw the ball, but they don't throw it a million times a game. They're not TCU. They're not going to do that. They're going to run. They're going to run. They're going to run. You might consider passing. And the way that they run opens up so much for the passing game. And we did see that against Tennessee in the last drive of that game. They had so much room to pass because Derrick Henry is such a threat running the ball. I mean, just turn around and hand it to him. If that's your back and that O-line there, that O-line is going to be, all of them are going to be in the NFL. Yeah, forget about it. Okay, but on the other side, Les Miles. He's crazy. He'll do some weird things. I don't know what he's liable to do in a given situation. Some of these games, by the way, turn out to be just absolutely defensive battles, and you can't tell with LSU Alabama. Some of these games are grinds. Some of these games are low scoring, and then some of these games are just lopsided blowouts. And you cannot tell. The year that Alabama won the title over LSU, LSU wins the game at the end of the season. They both go to the national championship game where then Alabama smokes LSU. You can't predict these matchups. You really, really can't. And Leonard Fournette is a guy that changes the entire scope of the matchup because he's crazy athletic. I mean, he was made in a lab. Okay, that's Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette wasn't born. He was created in a lab. And he was raised by very kind people, and that's why he's got such a good personality. And Leonard Fournette said this past weekend that he saw a bunch of kids that were dressed up as him for Halloween, and it made him realize exactly how many people look up to him and why he has to be a good person. Leonard Fournette, made in a lab, but raised by kindly people. That's why he is the way he is. I'm not saying that I have sources saying that Leonard Fournette was created in a lab. I'm just saying I watched what he did to those Auburn players, and that play haunts my nightmares. Forget theirs. I talk about that a lot because I haven't forgotten it. I've never seen a person do that to just three people in one play. He ran through one guy. He ran around the other guy, and he ran over the last guy. I mean, just ran him over. And I've seen prettier car accidents. What happened there? Like, why did they try to tackle him? To me, and you could call me a coward, that's a situation where you just get out the way. You know, it's the old Olay tackle. I'm showing enough effort to let you know that I didn't give up on the play, but I'm giving up on the play. Peyton Manning throws an interception. He's the last guy back. He's not making that tackle. Neither am I. I'm not trying to tackle Leonard Fournette. Those are the two people right now in existence that I don't know why you try and tackle them. In college football, I don't know why you try and tackle Leonard Fournette. And in the NFL, I don't know why you try and tackle Rob Gronkowski. I don't understand. He's a behemoth. He is the cross between Andre the Giant and a polar bear. And I don't know why you try and tackle him. And Leonard Fournette was made in a lab. Okay, so you watch the way that he runs. It's not like a ferocious run. Like, he's not running angry. He's just bigger, stronger, and faster than you are. And, oh, look, there's the end zone, and I have an appointment with it. And anybody in between is getting run over. I mean, that's just how it works. And then you've got the other Leonard Fournette games where he's not necessarily steamrolling everyone, but you're like, oh, I haven't seen Leonard Fournette do anything amazing in a while. You look down at the stats, and you're like, what? He's got 120 yards already in the third quarter. You don't know where the 120 yards came from. But he's just averaging 8 yards a carry or whatever that ridiculous number is for him. And Derrick Henry for Alabama, he's averaging over 8 yards a carry as well. In that Tennessee game, you really needed some big yards. You just turn around and hand it to Derrick Henry. He'll find the end zone for you. Like in the red zone, that is the safest thing you can do. Just turn around and give it to that guy. The O-line opens up. His vision is amazing. The angles that he attacks, incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I'm on the hype train for Alabama LSU. Bill Bender, Sporting News national college football writer. He joins us every Thursday, and I've got like a million Alabama LSU questions for him. He's been very informative. I know a lot of you have liked him. I'm pretty excited. So if you have any questions you want me to ask, by the way, the Facebook page, go to Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook. Search for it. Okay, and click on the picture with the eagle. That's us. And leave some of your questions for Bill if you've got them. Leave some of your questions for Bill, seriously. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. And boy, have we covered a lot already? I feel like we've covered a lot. We covered the sports announcers that people don't like and why. Why don't we like them? I don't necessarily know. I don't have my finger on the pulse of some of these things because I think some guys you just don't like because what? They sound arrogant. They sound boring. Who gets to decide that, and how boring is too boring for you? I think it's a serious question because I don't want my play-by-play guy necessarily yelling at me. Sure, show me some emotion if you've got it, but if you don't have it, I mean, that's not a deal breaker. Like, this game is not suddenly unwatchable because you're doing play-by-play and you're not yelling at me, which is what I seem to hear as the response to Joe Buck. The Joe Buck, he's not yelling at me, and I just can't watch this game. Like, people act like the game is suddenly not watchable. Not that they're saying that it's bad, not that they're saying that it's in their opinion, it's just, boy, he's a little dry. The game is unwatchable. That's bizarre. Is it not that one person's voice can make a football game, which is mostly visual, make a baseball game, which is mostly visual, unwatchable for you. Like, I could understand if it was Joe Buck on the radio, okay, but he's not on the radio. He's not on the radio. If it was a radio guy, I can't see the game. I need you to paint that picture of excitement for me. I need you to paint the complete picture of the game for me. Excitement, everything. I need all of it. Okay? You can't be dry and boring on the radio as the play-by-play guy. Ironically, if the color commentator's a little dry, that's actually not the worst thing in the world. Play-by-play guy dominates on the radio because I can't see what's happening. You need to explain it to me. Okay, I get that. I get that. But on TV, it's mostly visual on TV. It's mostly visual. So where are you complaining? Where is the complaints? Why is this suddenly unwatchable to you? Which is, by the way, a lie. It's football. Okay? It's football. We're out there actually watching the garbage that they run out there on Thursday night and tell us that it's good and tell us that it's watchable. We actually sit down and watch that trash. We'll watch anything. We'll watch any football game. Why is it Joe Buck is doing play-by-play? Suddenly, it's not watchable anymore. That is a ludicrous way of thinking. And I know that nobody wants to feel like the person talking at them who they can't talk back to is better than them. But where is it that Joe Buck is doing that? Where is it that he's saying that he's better than you? And where is it that he's even implying that he's better than you? Because I don't get that. I don't get that sense from him. Right? Like, I don't get that sense from Joe Buck that he's better than me or he's above me. People have complained about that. John Gruden says ridiculous things just off the top of his head, but people like him because I think he sounds personable, I guess. We'll dig deeper on this. This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I'll see you in 23 hours.
Weather out there through the afternoon, mild highs into the lower 70s. Tonight, clouds, some late fog, lows near 60 for Wednesday and